I know a pitfall that I fell into with my first really kind of big campaign with a group was aimlessness. And I can call it that now. At the time, I didn't think that. Um, because in my mind, I envisioned a sort of unfolding narrative that would become more compelling as the story developed. They'd learn about this enemy in their first major arc, and then that enemy would develop, and they'd want to go. I imagined all of these things, but that doesn't mean that any of them. That doesn't mean that that's what the players feel. So I got live. I did end up starting the one shot. It's a campaign for sure now. One of my players said they would enjoy if I'd be more direct with the objective. Anyway, I can do that without directly telling them what to do. I don't think that you need to be. I think it's okay to lean into the game nature of the game, right? At least as an experiment, and especially when I think players are asking for it. Main objectives are tricky, and they may take time to get to, but let's say that let's look at it this way. Let's say that there are quests available from your perspective, right? You have 3 NPCs in the tavern, and from your perspective, each of them have basically given a plot hook to the party, but the party isn't seeing it or is not sure what to do, and they're like, can't you just tell us what we should do? One way you could kind of help them out without being too direct is to say, almost have like an above table version of, like, an NPC gives a plot hook of some sort. They want help defending or protecting or doing something out in the forest, let's say. And then you could say, by the way, if you guys help them, that's going to then provide you this benefit in town. Or if you go seek out this treasure with this other person, that in that treasure hoard is the sword of 1,000 wailing demons or something like that, right? Like you can almost give them it's a sort of quest marker or sort of like a promise. It doesn't have to be the end all be all, but it can be sort of a little bit of a temptation to help them kind of weigh things. Because what that sounds like to me, honestly, is that somebody who probably hasn't played kind of games of an open-ended nature like this, where you're all creating it kind of at the table, and maybe they're getting a little bit freaked out by having all the options, and so maybe some clarity like that could help them sort of take that step. Matt Colville, I don't remember the video, but he's definitely got some great advice around, like, I think he's literally before handed people like quest cards where it's like, if you go help them, like, you will get this sword. If you go do this, you will go, like, it's leaning again into the game rather than sort of the narrative, but I think it's okay, especially if what it does is help people embrace the narrative, right? If it helps them follow along, then that's probably at the end of the day worthwhile. Austin's got a good idea there too. Put urgency on certain things, give them option. Like the I think my answer changes whether it's the main objective or whether it's side quests, because I think side quests can be a multitude, and my approach to those is to throw them out fairly liberally and let players grab what they're interested in, and otherwise, okay, that just didn't happen, right? Most of the side quests that I've ever drafted never come to be. So I wouldn't worry too much about those. I would just, nothing's caught their interest yet. If it's a main objective, that feels a little bit like an opportunity to revisit sort of session zero type of conversations, to say, okay, well, what kind of game do we all want to play? And I know a pitfall that I fell into with my first really kind of big campaign with a group was aimlessness. And I can call it that now. At the time, I didn't think that. Because in my mind, I envisioned a sort of unfolding narrative that would become more compelling as the story developed. They'd learn about this enemy in their first major arc, and then that enemy would develop, and they'd want to go. I imagined all of these things, but that doesn't mean that any of them. That doesn't mean that that's what the players feel. That's just what I feel. That's just what's in my head. I know the narrative. I have sort of a cheat code on. But if you if you have that conversation, and this is what I try to do now when talking about a campaign, is I want to really align on like what is kind of the point. So for, you know, my Wednesday night game for years, that's been about the group told me, I said, what do you guys want your group to be about? And they said they wanted to build a guild. So that became the driving force of really the first 8 levels of that campaign is what's good for the guild. Now they were also unwittingly building an evil guild that they are now working to dismantle, but that gave direction and momentum. They chose it, they were interested, and then I built everything around that idea. For my recent sort of short campaign, right, that's based around basically a seafaring or like pirate adventure, well, that's fairly sort of says what it is on the tin, right? They're expecting, pirate ships and time at sea and treasure hunts, and like we talked about all of those ideas ahead of time. So the helpful thing about that is that when the narrative that I'm putting forth, sort of, especially for only 6 to 10 sessions, which is what this campaign is that I'm running right now, the narrative sort of requires them to want to be accepted as members of this pirate ship. But we've already had conversations about that's a thing that interests them in this campaign. And while that's cheating a little bit, man, you don't want to find yourself in a position where the players have to want to do something in order for the campaign to move forward, and they've never considered it or expressed that they wanted to before. So that's why I say, depending on if it's a side quest thing, I think there are lots of different ways to tackle it. If it's a main quest, main objective, like what type of heroes are we? What type of adventure is this? What's our momentum? What pushes us forward? That can, I think, be a productive meta conversation, right? Sometimes session 0, whatever you want to call it. Hi, Crane. You're writing these hooks, you know all the details your players don't. You have to keep reminding yourself that they don't know everything like you do. It's very true. Very true. Also, you always think of the office. Explain this to me like I'm 10. Explain it now like I'm 5. Well, and the cool part about quests is that they can start out simple and then develop and get crazy as you go, right? A really complex quest can almost deter parties from getting involved. Like an example that comes to mind is there was up on a quest board early on in a group's campaign, there was just a request. We need people to protect us in the forest. We need to go bring down some trees, and it's a forest that will be fairly exposed, and the forest is dangerous. So we're looking to hire basically adventurers to keep lookout while we do our logging work. Super, super basic, straightforward. But what that ended up being was they stumbled into like a forest fire situation because there was a practicing student wizard that had unknowingly accidentally conjured up some fire elementals, and they had to basically save the forest from burning down. The hook that gets them into that situation, it can develop and become something more crazy from there. Right, Crane? Hey, Shaza, you have a job board in town for bounties and whatnot, and pick NPCs, give prompts for quests. I guess you should go to taverns for quest progression. Definitely. Silly, it's the main objective. I'll definitely keep that in mind. I thought it would be fun to do a surprise story time. They just create their characters and I put them in the world, something simple. It can be. It can be. But then you're going to face, I feel a kinship, Silly. I've been in that spot. And when I looked back, because my Tuesday night game that is slowly coming to a conclusion after many years of play, when I look back, what I actually wish I had done is been a bit more forward about what that main threat was, right? What is the thing? Is it because really, like the players kind of develop their own, but what that also leaves room for is different players getting a different sense in their mind of what their character's motivation is. And moment of silence for like the most frustrating thing ever. Players and their player characters wanting to like go in different directions to accomplish different things. That's like it's resolvable, but it's just like such a grind once players get it in their heads that like, oh no, my number one objective for my character is that they protect our hometown and keep it safe, and then another one's like, well, mine is most important thing is to adventure and see the world, and you're like, that's one thing to talk about in session 0 or early on. That's another thing to be having that conversation 9 levels in. It's like, okay. So I think it can, there's probably like, there's a hopeful spirit in me that thinks there's probably a way to square it. But at the same time, um, if to use my example of the side quest that develops into something wilder, maybe a main quest that starts very, very obviously. Like, this campaign is about preventing the giants from destroying this region and therefore everybody that the characters know. And it's about rallying support and figuring out how we're going to, is it building a wall? Do we need to work with the wizard coalition? Is it something we just need to proactively go attack and destroy every giant? If that's what it begins as, and it develops into something more almost like a second act to the main story campaign, maybe that's a good way to satisfy both. It's a really, yeah, it's a tricky thing. They're fun problems to solve though. Yeah, it'll be interesting when I want to keep investigating this thing, because I think for homebrew campaigns this is like a big topic, right? Like, how do we create compelling open world narrative stuff without making it feel more like a module, like a scripted on rails, blah blah blah. How do we make it feel spontaneous in some sense? And I think it's something that is going to take practice. It's one of the reasons that I'm excited to be doing these like shorter campaigns now, where I can sort of try some stuff out and then try something different out the next time.